The biggest thing, she says, there's a lot of uncertainty, like you said, with the CBA, with the money, if we're even going to have a league next year, and then if people want to come back. We're trying to keep our core together, but when money is waving people's faces, you just never know. And so if we do, I think we just have to stay healthy, have to keep building day by day, and I think we have a good shot.
A WNBA player just dropped a bomb, and it's got everyone in the basketball world freaking out. Sophie Cunningham did an interview and said something about next season that no one saw coming. Seriously, we're talking major uncertainty, contract issues everywhere, and straight-up questions about whether the league will even be here. This isn't rumors or guesses. It's coming straight from a player. Before we dive into this whole mess, tell me in the comments, do you actually think the WNBA will have a 2026 season, or is this thing heading for disaster?
Negotiations, where she says, I think the last meeting was 2 weeks ago. I know our execs are talking with their people every single day. I don't think there's been much movement. I think there's at least communication is the biggest thing for us, but normally we don't have meetings unless something big is happening or if they need to update us what they're talking about. And so it's been 2 weeks and we haven't had one, so I'm not sure where they're at, but for us players, I think we're standing strong on what we want.
So, Sophie Cunningham did this interview with Front Office Sports, and she basically said what everyone's been thinking, but no one dared to say out loud. She flat out admitted there's real uncertainty about whether the WNBA will even exist next year. We're not talking low attendance or struggling ratings. We're talking about will there even be a league? Let that sink in for a minute. Sophie's been with the Indiana Fever since last January, so she's seen all the drama, the injuries, that near-finals run, and now this total chaos around the league's future. The thing is, when she talks about what's happening behind the scenes, people actually listen. And what she's saying should have everyone worried. In the interview, they asked what the Fever needed to make it to the finals next season. Her first answer was simple: stay healthy. She even pointed out that even when they weren't fully healthy last season, they were still just a couple of calls away from the finals. That adversity actually helped them get ready for the future, right? But then she dropped the absolute bomb. She said, and this is a direct quote, "There's a lot of uncertainty with the CBA, with the money, if we're even going to have a league next year." Listen to that again, if we're even going to have a league next year. Not when the season starts or assuming everything goes smoothly. She literally said they don't know if there will be a WNBA. A current player publicly admitting the league might not exist is just not a good look for anyone involved.
But then it got injured, and so my mindset truly is to get healthy. And this off season is going to be probably one of my best ones. I'm just so excited. I'm so motivated. I had a hell of a time when I was out on the court playing with these girls, and so I really don't know truly what the future holds. I don't know if I'm going to be back here, but I do know that my time here so far.
Sophie went on to explain that even though the Fever players are all staying in touch, there's nothing really to talk about until this new collective bargaining agreement gets worked out. And honestly, that's the story across the entire league right now. Nobody can make plans. No one can commit to anything. Teams can't make trades. Players can't negotiate new contracts. Everything is completely frozen because these CBA negotiations are totally stuck. When they asked her about those negotiations, Sophie revealed the last meeting was 2 weeks ago. 2 whole weeks and nothing since then, which usually means nothing significant is happening behind the scenes. She said the executives are supposedly talking to their people daily, but there hasn't been much movement at all. The only positive thing she could even say was that at least there's some communication happening. But what's the point of communication if there's no actual progress? That's just noise. She made it clear that players only get meetings when something big is on the table or when the league needs to update them on what's being discussed. The fact that it's been 2 weeks without a meeting tells you everything you need to know. Nothing is moving. Nothing is changing. And meanwhile, the clock keeps ticking toward a season that might not even happen. Plus, the interview touched on salary proposals. Apparently, there's talk about a supermax salary of $850. Sounds great, right? A big number showing the league values its stars. But Sophie's response was way more thoughtful than just getting excited about a big paycheck. She pointed out that $850,000 sounds impressive today, but what happens when the business keeps growing? Do salaries go up with that growth? Or do they just stay locked at whatever number gets negotiated right now? That's actually a super smart question, because if the WNBA locks in a max salary now, and then the league explodes in popularity and revenue over the next few years, players could end up stuck at a number that doesn't reflect their true value anymore. That's exactly why the Players Association has been pushing so hard for revenue sharing. They want their pay tied to the league's financial performance, not fixed to a number that looks good today, but becomes totally outdated tomorrow. Sophie basically said the best solution would be to renegotiate the whole CBA every 3 years instead of locking it in for longer periods. That way, if the league's money situation changes dramatically, and it absolutely could given all the recent attention, players can adjust their demands. It's a reasonable position, but apparently it's one of many big sticking points holding up a deal. Now, the interviewer also asked about Project B, that new 3-on-3 league making headlines. Sophie admitted she doesn't know much about it beyond social media, which she takes with a grain of salt. But here's the thing she said that cuts right to the core of the problem. If people are going to pay you multi-million-dollar deals, why would you not?
Exactly.
Why would you not? That's the huge dilemma facing WNBA players right now. Other leagues like Unrivaled and Project B are offering serious money to top players. We're talking deals that make WNBA's salaries look tiny. So from a player's perspective, especially if you're not even sure the WNBA will exist, why wouldn't you take that guaranteed money somewhere else? It's a totally logical choice, but it's also potentially the death sentence for the WNBA itself. Here's the harsh reality. If the 2026 season doesn't happen, the league is probably just done for good. Not on hold, not taking a break, done. And all that amazing momentum the WNBA built last season. All those new fans discovering the sport, all that media attention finally coming their way, all of it just evaporates if there's no season. You can't just cancel a year and expect everything to pick up exactly where it left off. Sports don't work that way, and fans definitely don't work that way. The problems causing this potential cancellation won't magically disappear either. The financial issues won't resolve themselves. The disagreements between players and owners won't just vanish. If anything, a canceled season makes everything way worse, because now you've lost an entire year of revenue, a whole year of fan engagement, and a full year of growth. The money situation becomes even more dire, not better. The path back becomes way steeper, not easier. Sophie's totally right that there's no point asking questions until the CBA gets sorted out. But that's exactly what makes this so incredibly frustrating. The entire future of the league is on hold while negotiations just drag on with no apparent progress. And while that's happening, these alternative leagues are actively recruiting players with offers that make WNBA salaries look like pocket change. From a purely logical standpoint, halting all this momentum by canceling a season is the absolute dumbest move possible. The WNBA just had one of its most watched seasons ever. Interest was higher than it's been in years. New fans were finally paying attention. Canceling the season throws all of that away. It's self-sabotage at the highest level. But logic doesn't always win when money and ego get mixed into negotiations. The only people who truly benefit from no WNBA season are the owners and major investors in Unrivaled and Project B. If the WNBA doesn't exist, those alternative leagues become the only game in town for women's basketball. They can recruit the best players without competition. They can position themselves as the saviors who stepped in when the WNBA failed. It's a cynical way to look at it, but it's not entirely wrong. And here's where things get even messier. The WNBA Players Association has been making some seriously questionable decisions lately that make you wonder if they're actually acting in the best interest of all players. Remember that whole investigation into crowd behavior that started from basically a Twitter rumor? The PA jumped on that immediately, basically confirming something that might not have even happened, calling fans racist based on social media speculation. But where was that same energy when it came to protecting players from actual documented issues? The PA's track record with certain players, especially how they've handled situations involving popular players versus others, definitely raises questions about whether they're truly representing everyone equally. And now, with CBA negotiations stalled and the league's future up in the air, you have to wonder if some people within the PA might actually think the WNBA not existing would be better for their interests. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If the WNBA disappears and leagues like Unrivaled and Project B become the main options, maybe 40% of current WNBA players make more money. But what about the other 60%? They're out of a job. Those alternative leagues aren't going to employ 200 players. They're super selective, taking only the top talent. So while a few stars might be fine, or even better off without the WNBA, the majority of players would lose everything. That's why this uncertainty is so incredibly damaging. Players can't plan their futures. Teams can't build their rosters. Fans don't know if they should stay invested in a league that might not even exist next year. Sponsors start looking elsewhere. Media partners get nervous. It's a total downward spiral that just feeds on itself. And every single day, without a CBA resolution, makes it worse. That 30-day negotiation window everyone keeps talking about. That's just not going to solve this. There's too much distance between what players want and what owners are willing to give. The revenue-sharing issue alone is a massive gap. Owners don't want to tie their payroll directly to revenue because if the league doesn't perform financially, they're stuck paying out more than they can afford. Players don't want to accept fixed salaries that might end up being way below market value if the league explodes in popularity. Both sides definitely have valid concerns, but those valid concerns won't matter if the league just ceases to exist while they're arguing about them. At some point, being practical has to win over principle. Someone has to blink and accept a deal that's good enough, even if it's not perfect, because the alternative, no season and possibly no league at all, is worse for literally everyone except the people trying to build these competing leagues. Sophie Cunningham saying out loud that she's not sure if the WNBA will exist next year should be a massive wake-up call for everyone involved in these negotiations. Players need to hear it and realize they're risking their entire livelihood. Owners need to hear it and realize they're about to lose everything they've invested. Fans need to hear it and understand that the league they've supported might actually disappear if things don't change fast. This isn't speculation anymore. This isn't media hype or clickbait headlines. This is a player, someone who's been in the league for years, someone who's seen the inner workings, openly admitting that next season might not happen. That's as real as it gets. And if people don't start taking this seriously, if negotiations keep dragging on without progress, if both sides keep digging in instead of finding compromise, then Sophie's uncertainty will become reality. The WNBA has survived plenty of struggles throughout its history. Financial problems, attendance issues, lack of media coverage, you name it. But this feels different. This feels like an actual existential crisis, because this time there are viable alternatives for the top players. This time, the momentum the league finally built could disappear overnight. This time, there might not be a path back if things fall apart. Sophie Cunningham just told everyone what's really happening behind the scenes. The question now is whether anyone with the power to fix it will actually listen. So, that's the whole situation nobody wanted to talk about until Sophie Cunningham actually said it out loud. The WNBA's future is genuinely uncertain, and that should concern everyone who cares about women's basketball. If this video opened your eyes to what's really happening, hit that like button and subscribe for more updates. Drop your thoughts below.